I used to think that persistence meant that I had to be, I had to be hard, I had to be, I had to be tough, I had to be fierce, I had to persist, and I had to be really, really, it's not like, you grit your teeth and you grab the side of your seat and you squeeze your cheeks together and you hang on for the ride. And it's not like that at all. Sometimes you just got to go, you know what? I've just got to pick up the phone one more time. Maybe I just got to be willing to send that email. Maybe I need to go for a walk around the block for 10 minutes and go, I'm just going to go and clear my head for a minute. Then I'll come back and I'll know what to do. So the resilience and the persistence is it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be gritty and fierce. It's just a matter of just got to turn up one more time. I've just got to try one more thing.
We're your co-hosts, Vicki and Laura, and this is the Resilient Entrepreneurs Podcast, the ultimate guide for ambitious business founders and startups. Hear from business heroes who faced unexpected challenges as we unpack how they slayed their dragon and reignite your instinct to conquer your dragon.
Arch, welcome to Resilient Entrepreneurs. We're really excited to have you on the podcast today. And I'm going to start right off with a big question. Who are you and what mission are you on?
What mission am I on? Well, thank you, Laura. It's nice to be here and nice to have a big question straight up to start it. Who am I? I was born and bred on a dairy farm in the Derwent Valley in Tasmania. Went to school in Hobart, joined a big corporate company, did 23 years with them, did 5 moves interstate, so Hobart, Toowoomba, Wagga, Dubbo, Adelaide, Brisbane. Got sick of moving around, so ended up being retrenched out of that. And like a lot of people who work in corporate, when I lost my big corporate role, I lost my identity. I didn't quite know who I was, so I was lost for a while. Took me a little while to work all that out, but once I worked all that out and got myself back on track, actually helping people who might have been through a similar journey or helping people just be a better version of themselves. So what's my mission is I can get anything I want out of life if I help enough other people get what they want.
I like that.
So in a nutshell, that's me.
Thanks for that, Arch. That's a spirit of generosity right off the bat. Yeah, I can get what I want if I help others get what they want. Do you want to speak into that more?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I do a lot of work with youth. And you just see, I run a Rotary youth program at the end of each year, and it's for school leaver age, so year 11, 12 students. So just seeing the growth of those people in a week, and they come into the camp, they're all a bit shy and a bit nervous and not quite sure what to expect. And the week is all about getting ready to take on the world. It's all about life after school and preparing for that transition from school to life. So it's so close. What we do on that camp is so close to what I do in my own business that it's an extension almost. So, but to see these young people come in shy, quiet, nervous, and then just leave at the end of the week ready to take on the world, going, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, I'll find something else. And it's just so good to see.
Amazing. So I just want to dig back in a little bit to what you said about losing your good corporate job and feeling a bit lost. I think there's something there that we should explore because, often people will say, and parents will, try to encourage their kids to go get a career and, make a lot of money and have a safe job and get your health insurance covered and all those good things. And there's a lot of validity to that. I do agree. But calling it safe, I will never agree with because like you, I was made redundant while I was pregnant. And that was my journey into entrepreneurship, kicked right off the cliff into it, like I like to say. And, looking back, it was the best thing that happened. However, at the time, it was a bit of a, flounder to try to figure things out. So let's talk about that in case anyone is at that point. Maybe they're listening and, maybe they do have a job and they're thinking about entrepreneurship, maybe want to start a side hustle or, maybe they even have a kid that's really into entrepreneurship, but they don't quite know how to advise them. What are your thoughts on that sort of moving from the one space to another and how that was for you?
Yeah, like you, it was forced upon me. And my partner at the time said, you'll die in that job. You'll never work anywhere else. So that was her view about where I sat with that organization. And then when the exit came and the exit wasn't at my request and wasn't what I wanted, it was a bit of a shock. So, because like a lot of people, and particularly men, I attached my identity to my role. And when that job or that role didn't exist anymore, then my identity went with it. So I found myself sort of lost and aimless and not really sure of who I was. And, the end result of that was that, I spiraled a bit. And I can remember there was a period of time where I would curl up on the lounge room floor every afternoon and go to sleep. And most people who know anything about it will probably suggest that's the first sign of depression.
Mm.
And it wasn't a good place to be. So, and it was probably the start of my personal development journey. So, hitting that rock bottom, and then my sister-in-law, who was a coach, saying to me, Arch, there's a guy going to be in Brisbane. We've done a bit of work with him. Your brother and I have both done some work with him. A lot of what he talks about just makes sense to us. I think it'll make sense for you too. Why don't you go along and have a listen? And I did. It was the following weekend. But at that time, I can remember feeling I just had I felt like my feet were stuck in concrete. I could move, but my feet couldn't. I just felt like my feet were stuck and I couldn't go anywhere. And I sat and listened to this guy for 3 days, and my sister-in-law was right. Everything he said just made sense. And in those 3 days, I didn't go anywhere, but my feet got unstuck. So I've taken this little, if you like, a bunny hop where my feet have moved and I go, right, now I know I'm free. Now I know I can move more, but I knew that was just the start of the journey. And the end result was that relationship ended. So I had this period of time where it was no job, no relationship, and at one point, no home. I go, well, this is a good place to be. Now what? And the only thing I knew was that I wanted to be a better human being. And I wasn't, I knew I wasn't the kind of person that I wanted to be. And I just knew there was the one thing I knew was that I wanted to be a better human being. I had no idea of what that looked like. And I had no idea of how I would get there, wherever there might be. So it was just that one step after another. I ended up working with that guy for 2 years. So he ran a weekend retreat every quarter. And I signed up for a program that gave me 2 years worth of that. So once a quarter, I'd fly to Canberra, do this full-on weekend, where he gives a whole lot of tools, a whole lot of information, and then I'd have 3 months to go and put it in place before I got the next lot. And I just found that really, really helpful. And that probably helped me move through the exit of that relationship, but it helped me understand a lot of the feelings that I'd gone through when I got retrenched, and that feeling of, well, that lack of self-worth and how my self-worth plummeted now that I didn't have that big corporate job, and learning that, I'm still okay. I've still got value, just not in that space anymore. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, that's a big one. It's a really big topic, this one of
Mm-mm.
self-worth, and it shows up in so many different ways that we perhaps don't value our own worth as much as we might think we do, especially in business. We're running our own business. Laura and I like to say that being in business for yourself is the greatest personal development journey you can ever choose to be on. Because,
Absolutely.
just when you think you've got it
Yep.
all worked out, something new
Yep.
arises.
Yep.
Um,
Absolutely.
and I'm sure you agree, most of what arises is somehow connected to self-worth. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah, very much so. So, in the work that I do now, one of the modules I use is that self-image, that image that we have of ourselves. So the best way to describe it is probably we've got two images. There's one that we portray to the world, and there's one that we hold back here. It's this one back here that we see that nobody else sees that determines whether or not we believe we've got any value and things like that. So it's understanding my own self-worth and that I do provide value and actually believing that. And when you're a business owner, invoicing people, going, did I really charge them that? Will they really pay that? And then when you tout yourself to win the work, and then when you win the work, you go, okay, great, I've got the work. Uh-oh, now I've actually got to deliver. So suddenly you're on the hook to deliver everything that you've promised. And then, then the payment bit comes somewhere in all of that. So that if you don't have that value for yourself, you don't see that you're worth the money that you're charging or that you're adding the value that you can add, then nobody else will. It's got to come from you first.
Truth.
Mm. Mm.
Truth.
So
We've got to believe it. We've got to believe it before someone else can believe it. Although that said, you'll often find that people around you see more in you and believe in you more than you believe in yourself. And that's borrowed belief. And I think it's so important to look for evidence of someone else's belief in you and then borrow it until you don't need it anymore.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and some really good signs of it are, have you ever been paid a compliment where somebody's paid you a genuine compliment, you know they're serious, and you felt uncomfortable about it? You know, oh, no, I don't know that I did that, or, you know, we tend to downplay it. But that's exactly what you're talking about, is that other person has seen something in us that we haven't seen in ourselves. So it just means that my image of me does not live up to their image of me. They see me in a better light than I see myself. And another similar example is sometimes when you walk into a room full of people, and particularly if we're in the corporate world, but again, in the business space, we can walk into a room and we can see people who've got really established businesses who look really successful. And the first thought we can have when we walk through the door is, oh, I don't belong in this room. These people are way better than I am. And it's such a simple thing to do, but it's all part of our programming. But if you weren't meant to be there, you wouldn't be there. You wouldn't have got through the door if you weren't meant to be there. So those couple of things can be a couple of really just simple examples of where we can look and go, that self-image that I've got of me isn't quite up to scratch with the image that everybody else sees.
Yeah, they're great examples, Arch. And how do you bring them closer together? What simple techniques do you have up your sleeve that you can share with our audience today?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So if I go back to a guy named Dr. Maxwell Maltz, and some people will know him some way, he was a plastic surgeon, and he was the one who discovered this two image theory. And the way he worked it out was that he would be working with people who, had, a scar, or they had some disfigurement from birth, or had had an accident or something like that. He would then do the plastic surgery to reform whatever had gone wrong. And what he found was that he generally got two results from their patients. They would look physically different after the operation, and they would feel that they looked, for want of a better word, inverted commas, normal. I don't have this scar anymore. I don't have this disfigurement anymore. I'm back to looking like, the majority of the rest of the population. And what he found was some people, once that physical image changed, the way they felt about themselves changed with it. But then he found there were other patients, so even though they physically changed, they didn't see themselves any differently. So they still saw themselves as with the scar or the disfigurement and still treated themselves accordingly. So some changed internally and some didn't. And that's what led him to believe, well, we've got this image to the outside world and this image that we hold of ourselves. And it's this internal one. And the internal one sits in our subconscious mind. And the beauty of our subconscious mind is that it will accept anything that we tell it. And it can't tell the difference between what's real and what's imagined. So we can say to it, it's the mirror work, it's writing things out, it's this whole I am. And we need to be really careful of the words we use after we use the words I am, because whatever comes next goes straight into our subconscious mind. So if we do something that's not the way we want it done, we go, oh, gee, I'm an idiot. It's the easiest thing in the world to say, but we're reinforcing a negative behavior. So to build that self-image, it's standing in front of the mirror. It can be written work to start with, because sometimes that's a bit easier for people to stomach. And the next part then is standing in front of the mirror, looking yourself in the eye and go, I am successful. I know what I'm doing. I believe in myself. I deserve to be winning the clients that I'm winning. I deserve to make $1 million in my business. I am worthy of that. It's the I am, I am, I am. And as long as we continue to tell ourselves that, we'll get there. It's just telling yourself over and over and over and over again until you actually believe it. So it's reprogramming that subconscious thought.
That's so good. Yeah, it's so good. I like that. It's so simple, just the I am. And we talk about these sorts of things, and the gurus will always tell you about those, meditations and things to do like this. But it sometimes feels so woo-woo to people. But that just came across as just really practical. Look at yourself until you believe it. You got to just talk to yourself until you believe it. Yeah. What else do you find you help people with the most? What else do people struggle with on a mental, emotional scale?
The other one is belief. which we almost sort of, it's closely aligned with that self-image belief, and then procrastination would be a couple of them. So, how many times have you worked with somebody, you've delegated them a task, and then you've just watched them hesitate? They go, you really want me to do this? Right? What's going on for them is that they don't actually believe that they're capable of doing the task that you've just given them. You know they are. That's why you gave it to them. But they won't tell you that. They'll give you some excuse like, "Oh, you want me to do that," or "I haven't been trained in that," or "I thought someone else was going to be doing that project." And you go, "No, no, no. I want you to do it." And you see them take that big deep breath and they wander away. And it's that belief. They don't actually have that belief in themselves that they're capable of completing the task that you've given them. And it comes back very closely to that self-image. We have this expression where I'll believe it when I see it. And it's actually the wrong way around. You've got to believe it before you'll actually see it. You've got to believe that you're capable of achieving. You've got to believe that you can finish that task. And quite often we don't know how. We look at it and go, I don't know how. And because we don't know how, we stop. And we let the I don't know how become a roadblock. And at the end of the day, if you set yourself to do something and you know this is going to be a really good thing for you, do you really care how it happens? And I'll put a caveat on, as long as it's moral, legal, and ethical, probably along those lines. But as long as it's those three things, as long as it's moral, legal, and ethical, do you really care how you achieve your goal? So the how doesn't actually matter. We get all wrapped up in, how am I going to do that? So when we get stuck in how, our mind comes up with all the reasons why we can't. And if we let go of the how and go, well, it really doesn't matter how. What matters is this is the result I want. This is the first step I've got to take. And when I take that first step, then I'll know what the second step is. But we tend to sit back on the start line going, well, I know what the first step is, but I don't know what the step is after that, so I won't take it yet. And so then comes the fear, then comes the procrastination, all those kind of things. So that whole belief, that needing to believe it before you see it, is huge.
Yeah, it's that first step. Everybody gets caught up on taking that first step. So many entrepreneurs we've talked to, that's where the hesitation comes in, whether it is leaving a corporate job or in starting that business or, taking the next level, of their business or scaling their business, whatever it is, that always feels so scary until you just take that little bit of action. And that's what I know for me, because I'm a queen procrastinator. I've been very good at that for most of my life. So I get procrastination. But I've learned the thing for me is just to do the first part of the project. Because usually I procrastinate on like the big stuff that I know is going to take a lot of time and it's going to take a lot of different things. And, it's going to be quite involved. Little things, I like to just tick them off the list and get them done. But I'll get busy with the little things and not do the big things sometimes. So that's something I have to be very aware of. What I've learned to do is when I know the big thing's important and I got to get to it, what's the first small thing? And it might just be that piece of research that needs to be done first, or that email that needs to be sent first. And then once that ball starts rolling, it kind of kicks into gear. But procrastination, I think a lot of us can absolutely understand and relate to that.
Yeah, I know when I ask at my networking group, I do a 45-second presentation around procrastination. And the first question I'll ask is, raise your hand if you've ever procrastinated on something? And nearly every hand in the room just goes up. Yeah, me, done that, been there, done that, know that feeling. So, and there's that wonderful expression that the journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to see the whole journey to be able to take that first step.
Yeah.
And I think it's a guy named Thomas Carlyle had another expression that said, go as far as you can see. When you get there, you'll see how you can go further. Because you'll be different. You'll be different. When you get to there, you'll be different because you'll have gone through some experiences. You'll have a different view of the world and it won't look so bad and you'll know what to do next.
Hang on, hold that thought. I apologize for the interruption. I just wanted to take 15 seconds of your time to thank you for being a part of this growing community of resilient entrepreneurs. If you could do us just one massive favor and subscribe, you'll be notified of the next great episode of this podcast. And speaking of great episodes, let's get right back to it.
I really appreciate that expression, the way it plays out, because it's true that we can get caught up in planning the minutiae of what's going to happen 3 months from now, yet we will not be the same person even 3 months from now. We'll be
Exactly.
wanting to do it differently. We will have made different connections. We will have partnered with somebody potentially. Like, it will change, it will pivot. And having the
Absolutely.
minutiae of the plan is actually going to hold us back rather than keeping the big picture in mind, keeping the why, the motivation. I really appreciate that. There is an interesting point, however, that Laura and I are very, very strong on strategy, understanding your strategy, which a big part of that is the environment, right? The why. Why are you doing it? Who are you doing it for? So, not to be confused with, eliminating a plan, strategy and planning, and how far do you go? What's your view on this, Arch?
Yeah, you absolutely need a plan. Absolutely. To just blindly take step after step after step, it might work occasionally, but it's riddled with possibility of failure and distraction and things going wrong. So it's the really key part, and you said it well, Vicky, is this is my end goal. This is the bit I need to focus on. How we get there, because we planned it in a nice, orderly, sequential, straight line. And when we get to wherever it is and we look back at the journey looks a little bit more squiggly than the straight line that we'd originally planned it with. So I think it was Steve Jobs said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking back. And things will happen on that journey that you never expected, and you'll wonder why they came to challenge you. But there's a reason. And when you get to your destination and you look back, you'll know what that reason is. So absolutely, you need a plan. So you need to know what your steps will be. And how you are going to get there. You also need to be very aware that that plan might change. And it's really important that you're willing and able to adapt the plan, but never the goal. The outcome is what we want. The goal is what we seek. How we get there doesn't matter. So if the plan has to change and we've got to take a different route, sometimes that's what we've got to do. Sometimes I liken it to water trickling down a hill. If you've ever seen water run or overflow from a creek or a container or a tank or something like that, and you just watch it make its way through the grass or over the dirt or whatever, it just snakes its way down the hill. Eventually it comes to a block and you'll see the water piling up behind it. All of a sudden, there's so much water behind it that it's got so much force that it goes around whatever that obstacle is, and it just keeps flowing. So if we can see ourselves as that water flowing down the hill, easy, path of least resistance, but it doesn't flow in a straight line. It runs into hurdles, it runs into blocks, it takes twists and turns. Our journey will be exactly the same, but it always gets to the bottom.
How does resilience fit into all of that?
Resilience is huge. So that's comes back to that self-image. We're going to make mistakes. Things are going to go wrong. Things aren't going to go the way we planned them. And that self-image that we have to know that even though that didn't work, I'm still okay. I just made someone asked Thomas Edison when he invented the light bulb, how did it feel to fail 1,000 times? He said, I didn't fail 1,000 times. I just found 1,000 ways it didn't work.
Yes.
And I mean, how resilient is that? That's probably the best example I know. But it's to say, well, I'm going to try this. If it works, great. If it doesn't, that's okay. But if that's okay, I'll try something else, just knowing that that didn't work. Maybe I can adapt that to do that differently once I've seen how that panned out. But what happens is we go, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I failed. And we stop there because we feel like we failed and it didn't work and we don't know what to do next. Whereas those people with that strong self-image and that strong belief will go, okay, let's just try something different. Let's try another plan. Let's adapt that. Let's modify that, or let's try something completely different over here. So resilience, and another word I use a lot is persistence. And and I used to think that persistence meant that I had to be hard, I had to be tough, I had to be fierce. I had to persist, and I had to be really, really, it's not like, you grit your teeth and you grab the side of your seat and you squeeze your cheeks together and you hang on for the ride. And it's not like that at all. Sometimes you just got to go, you know what? I've just got to pick up the phone one more time. Maybe I just got to be willing to send that email. Maybe I need to go for a walk around the block for 10 minutes and go, I'm just going to go and clear my head for a minute. Then I'll come back and I'll know what to do. So
Mm.
the resilience and the persistence is it doesn't have to be hard and it doesn't have to be gritty and fierce. It's just a matter of just got to turn up one more time. I've just got to try one more thing. And if we can do that, so that's not having the 1,000 steps, it's just the next step. I've just got to turn up the next time. I've got to turn up one more time. I've got to make one more phone call. I have one more meeting. So
Yeah, I love that. I think there was a tip in there, a little bit hidden. You glossed right over it, but I think it's a biggie. And that is to just take a break. If something's not working, it's not feeling right. I know from my own experience, if I start feeling frustration in my body and something's just like maybe I'm just frustrated at the tech for a minute, or I feel like I'm spending too much time on something that I could be doing something more valuable, and I feel it starting to bubble up, it's like, all right, it's just time to take a break. Just do something different for 5 minutes, come back, and sure enough, everything falls into place
yeah.
because we can become our own problem. The more we, dig in, the more of a problem it becomes.
Mm. And we lose the spirit of it. We become really mechanical about it. I've got to do that email. I've got to make that phone call. I've got to sell the widget, whatever it is. But we get really mechanical about it, and we lose the spiritual part of it, which is just being in that flow. And it's that break. So we get to that point where that frustration or the anxiety about it actually kills our creative mechanism. So we stop coming up with the ideas that we need to take the next step. If we're so frustrated, we can't think that, well, okay, maybe there's a better way, maybe there's a better option. We focus on that one and zero in and work on it until we force it into making it work. And how often have you gone for a walk or just taken a break and say, you know what, I'm going to leave that till tomorrow morning and I'll come back and have another look at it. And suddenly there's I could do that.
Yeah.
Mm.
And it's that break that reignites the creative mechanism. So some of the things I've started doing are just, I know Thursday's a really busy day for me in the morning with back-to-back meetings. And I'm lucky, I live in Brisbane. We've got this beautiful river. I find a park, I'll go and park my car and I'll just sit on a park bench under a tree, just watching the river. And I'll be there for 10 or 15 minutes. I might make some phone calls, I might be there for half an hour, but just sitting in the park, hearing the birds in the trees, watching people come and go, watching the water, the ferries come and go. That half an hour is gold because it just resets. And if I can't get to the river, people talk about meditation. And if meditation works for you, great. And I've tried meditation for years. And I found it really hard to focus, just to zero in on something when my eyes are shut and stay focused on that without my mind wandering. What I found I'm better off doing now is just sort of half lying on the lounge. So I'll sit on the lounge, lie back with my feet on the floor. So my knees are at 90 degrees, put my hands on my chest, set the timer for 10 or 15 minutes and just switch off. Just let the mind go wherever the mind goes. It will take me wherever it wants to go. Sometimes I'm remembering something that happened in my childhood. Sometimes I'm thinking about something I need to do, but I try and get out of that and go, just let your mind wander. Just let it relax and switch off. Give it a break, and then come back to work. And I find that is just enormous. It's done far more for me than meditation ever has.
Mm. I'd probably argue that that sounds like a form of meditation. It's a genius form of meditation because you've crafted it to suit yourself. And we opened this conversation with, talking about the unconscious mind and how we can train or reprogram the unconscious mind to believe anything. Um, and where was I going with this? I feel like what you were sharing there about relaxing and creativity has some link to the unconscious mind and therefore a link to better results. How do you connect those dots?
Um, the so that whole relaxation to give ourselves the space to think. So, as human beings, we've got 6 higher mental faculties that animals don't have. Animals operate on instinct. We've actually got the ability to think. One of those things that we have is imagination, is one of the 6. And that's the ability to modify an existing idea or existing project to be better than it is, or to come up with something completely new. So, and a lot of people will say, I don't have an imagination, or my imagination doesn't work, or something along those lines. And I was one of those people. And what I found was when I studied it in a lot more depth was that I had an imagination and it worked perfectly. I was just using it against myself rather than for myself. And when I
Oh,
worked
tell me
that
more.
out, yeah, when I worked that out, I go, that was huge.
What does that mean? Tell us what that means.
So, again, me telling myself that I'm not creative is not a good way to start, because straight away I'm telling myself that I don't believe I can actually resolve the issue that's in front of me. And again, if I go back and tell myself, well, Archie, you've got enough experience to be able to work out an answer to this because you've been through enough and you know what to do. So let's change the narrative here and go, you might not know what to do right here, right now, but if you work on it long enough, you'll find a way. So let's go back to resilience and persistence and let's just give it a go and see what happens. And let's not get too attached to the outcome. And let's not get tied up in what sort of person I am, if it works or it doesn't work. Let's just find a way through to get to where we need to be here.
Yeah.
And that, once I do that, and memory works a very similar way. I was probably even worse with my memory in that most of us will be running an old video of something that's happened in the past. Just make sure that video is of a very uplifting, positive story or something that you've achieved rather than all the things you've done wrong. And again, when I figured that out, that just changed my whole mindset because I would be sitting there, I'd be cooking dinner randomly, but my mind would wander and I would start to wander back to things I'd done wrong or, something I haven't treated someone well or I've been unkind, or, to someone or to myself. And the exercise I did was I wrote down 10 things that I'd done that I'd achieved that I was really proud of. And every time I got to that and I caught myself doing that, snap back to, do you remember the day when you did this? Do you remember the day when you got that promotion? Do you remember that day when you scored 100 in cricket? Do you remember that day you got appointed captain? Do you remember that day you got that really good result? And as long as you've got, 6, 8, 10 of those that you can snap back to and go, oh yeah, that was a great day. Instantly, that changes the way we think and gives ourselves the opportunity to go back and go, well, let's solve this. So it's using, whether we use it for ourselves or whether we use it against ourselves, that's always a choice.
Yeah, I think Tony Robbins calls that breaking state or changing state.
Yeah.
You can literally be in a funk or in fear or in, you have to do something that feels overwhelming and you can literally just drop into your desired state by using, as you're saying, the power of imagination and memory combined.
Yep. And go back to picturing your goal. What's the outcome I want here? Because hopefully we're really excited by whatever that outcome is and what we're trying to achieve. And if we picture ourselves as having already achieved that, then rather than looking forward, trying to get over the mountain, we get to where we want to be and look back and we've got a completely different perspective on it. So we see it from a point of view. It's like asking someone who earns $1 million, how do I earn 5 million? Well, I don't know. But if you go and ask someone who earns $10 million a year, they'll tell you how to earn 5 because they've been there. They know because they're looking back on it. They'll have a very different view about earning 5 million than the person who's only earning $1 million.
Yeah. That's such a good point about talking to the people who are where you want to be. So that's where finding a mentor or coach, it can be super useful for people who are stuck or feeling like they aren't where they want to be. They see where they want to go, but they don't have the path yet to go there. Everything we've talked about already. Someone who can help illuminate that path for you can be that coach that is there, or that mentor that has been there, or that other business owner that has earned the 5 million you're trying to get to. That's such a good point there. It's so important. We talk about this a lot in this podcast, but it's so worth repeating over and over. You are the value, the 5 people you surround yourself with, right, is so, so important. And it's often when we're on this journey of entrepreneurship, harder to find those people because they're probably not already in our immediate circles, especially when we're first starting out. They're the people we have to go and seek. And they are out there. There are definitely entrepreneur groups out there. So it's worth it to make the effort to go find them because the difference it can make is tremendous, like you just said. Yeah, because it's these mental stuckness that keeps us from getting to great. And oh God, I've loved this conversation. Thank you. I love having conversations about this topic because we don't often get the chance to sort of delve into the how to get out of these spaces of being stuck or frustrated or, self-belief challenges. These are all things that are so normal and so many people have. Any thoughts on imposter syndrome? Because that's one that people like to throw around a lot too.
Yeah, that's that comes back to that self-image. We
Mm.
have those two images. So that imposter syndrome is where you walk through that door into that meeting and you go, "Oh, I don't belong here. I feel like an imposter." And that all that means is that you wouldn't have got through that door if you weren't meant to be there. Those people in that room see you walk through the door. Now there might be one or two who go, "Why are they here?" But most of the people who will acknowledge if you've walked through that door, then you deserve to be here. You're good enough or strong enough or fit enough or whatever you need to be. You are worthy of being in that room. So they see it. It's then up to us to see it. So imposter syndrome simply means that we haven't matched our own internal image with what we're trying to achieve. And we know we're all pretty familiar with that discomfort. So it's then about, well, okay, let's go back and change our perception. I got here. I wouldn't have got here if I wasn't meant to be here. So one of my old coaches used to say to me, "Arch, you're exactly where you need to be." And she always said it on the days where I wasn't anywhere near where I wanted to be. And she goes, "But there's a reason why you're here. You're going through this for a reason because you're going to grow out of this." And what I found when I started getting into those positions, in those rooms where, I would feel, do I really belong here? I'd have to change the narrative and go, "You wouldn't be here if you weren't meant to be here. Own this. You deserve to be here." And once I changed that, and sometimes you just got to act like that until you actually believe it. But there's a bit of, someone once said, and I love this because I've used it so many times, all you ever need is 20 seconds of courage.
Mhm.
So when you're starting, you just need, if you're having a difficult conversation, you just need 20 seconds of courage because the conversation will flow after that. If you're walking into that room and you know that you're going to feel a bit nervous, you just need to get through the door. Once you're in the room, you'll figure the rest out while you're going. If you're starting your own business, you need to actually start. You need that 20 seconds of courage to go, "I'm actually going to do this." The rest you'll figure out as you go. And and I find myself standing on that line going, "Uh-oh." And I go, "Arch, all you need is 20 seconds of courage. It's only 20 seconds. It's not going to kill you. You'll be okay after that." And how often do we walk out at the end of that going, "Gee, I'm glad I did that. I'm so glad I went to that," or "I'm so glad I took that action," or "I'm so glad I made that phone call."
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate the analogy of the 20 seconds of courage, because the flip side of that is that you're going to do it. Let's say I'll use a personal example. When I used to absolutely despise and fear networking. And I recall a time when I wasn't feeling great about myself and I knew I needed to go networking. And the whole way on the train in, I was talking to myself, all this self talk about how I'm going to, exchange business cards and whatever. But it was a push through that you've talked about before, this kind of like, and I was doing it despite not feeling good about it. My mindset wasn't, all I need is 20 seconds of courage and then I might enjoy it. My mindset was, I'm going to do this regardless because I know I have to. And the whole thing was just an absolute waste of time. I didn't exchange any business cards. I didn't talk to anyone intelligently because the whole time I was feeling like I was doing something I didn't want to do. Had I taken that mindset of 20 seconds of courage, walk in the room, and then see where it goes, it's a very different vibe. It's a very different feeling that you give off. It's a very different energy that you emit and receive. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's that spiritual versus mechanical.
There you
So
go.
how do I need to be? What's the spirit of networking? Well, I just need to walk through the door and talk to people. I just need to be me. But for me, I quite enjoy that. But I still have days, if I go to a brand new networking group that I've never been before, I get to the doorway and take the deep breath and go, "Okay, let's go." But I
Yeah.
know all I've got to do is walk through, find a drink, find someone to talk to. Once I've found that first person to talk to, I'm away.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
And
We
then give
always know.
yourself the courage to go and talk to somebody else, not
Yeah,
get caught up with one person because that's your safety net for the whole evening.
yeah. We
All
cling
right.
to this
I'm
person like the
saying that
world.
Never
because
done that
all
before.
you do. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
I feel called out.
Mingle.
Yeah,
Yep.
it's true. I think it helps to know that pretty much everyone else walks in the room feeling the same way. I
Yeah.
think that helps
Yes.
to know. Like, it's not just you. You're not the only one showing up at an event by yourself with a room full of strangers that feels that way. Because
Yep.
probably 95% of people walked into that room going, "Ooh, okay, all right, let's do this." They're
Yep.
feeling the same way. And even
Yeah.
if they've been in those rooms, there was a time when they weren't. There was a time when they stepped in that room for the first time. Just because they have the experience doesn't mean they've forgotten what it feels like. And I feel like most people give you a lot of grace, and most people really want to help. I think
Especially
we forget
entrepreneurs.
that. Yeah, the entrepreneur community is such a open, welcoming one. I've always wanted to teach everything I know. Like, I've always just wanted to share it all. Like, I've always just wanted to give because someone gave to me once. And if I've learned something that can help somebody else, like that's the greatest gift I can give. So we just know that most people have that feeling. There's always going to be a couple of not so nice people in the world because that's just the way it is. But for the most part, if we're all feeling the same, we're all walking into those rooms with the same jitters, then why do we focus so much on us? I think the way I think it was Vin Yang says it. I've totally mispronounced his name, but it's about serving others. When you get out of your own head and think about how do you serve others, how do you share in the room, how do you give? So when you can think of networking as a way to share something you're passionate about or believe in, or are interested in, and you're just sharing that. It's not about me and am I good enough? It's like, hey, I have this thing that I think and I believe it's important. I'd love to talk to you about it, and then we have a great conversation. Let me see what I can learn from you too. And that's what, real networking is.
Yeah. Change the question. Just instead of walking through the door going, "Oh, I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. I don't know." Walk through the door and ask one question: Who in this room can I help?
Mm, yes.
Who can I
That's it.
help?
Mic drop.
Mm. Mm.
That's a game changer right there.
Yeah. It just totally changes the way you approach the conversation.
Yeah. I think we should approach all conversations
Mm.
like that. How
Yeah.
can I help? How can I
Yep.
be of service? What can I do for you?
Mm.
And truly mean it and want to do
Mm.
for others.
Yeah. And it can be as simple as connecting them with somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It can be one comment that you make. They go, "Oh, there it is. That's what I needed to hear today."
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. And that's how I approach even like listening to a webinar or workshop these days. There's just a nugget in there that I need to get today.
Yep.
That's all. I'm just focused on that. What's that nugget? What's that one thing I need today? What's that thing you can give today? Just flipping it like that. I think it's so
Yeah.
valuable.
I,
This has been
I
a very
started.
valuable.
Yeah, it's
Go
been
ahead.
fun.
Yeah.
I started. I know when I started my coaching work that I would have to meticulously plan out every session, and I'd have to have a goal that I wanted them to get to, and I would, again, attaching myself to the outcome, would be concerned if they didn't get there and ecstatic if they did, but I would ride this emotion. Now it's very different in that I can turn up and go, "Here's what I'm going to give them today." So I've done the planning work. I've got my plan and I'm ready to go, and I know I've just got to execute my plan. But I know if I do that well, they will pick up what they need to pick up out of it. And it might not be what I figured for them. So I've got, a number of organisations I work with. I walk in and I go, "Well, here's the plan for today. Here's what we're talking about." We work through what it is. And somewhere through that meeting, someone goes, "Hey, what if we tried this?" I go, "That's what I needed to get today. There it is." I had no idea what it'd be, but I just knew that if I did the right thing, it would come.
I'd
So
love
now
to
that,
add a layer onto that too, because you're talking about what you're doing in a different way now to where you started. And I love that you're leaving the room to guide themselves, and the room has the knowledge every single time. I mean, this is a
absolutely.
message for every single leader in any scenario. The room has the knowledge. If you don't believe me, go and find out from other resources. And the thing I'd love to add to that is Arch, it's about how you're showing up. You're being you. You're bringing yourself to what you do. So it's not always about just what you do, it's about who we are in our work that really makes a difference for the people we work with. We can help people because of who we're being as much as what we say or what we do.
I talked earlier about I wasn't happy with the person I was, and I knew I just wanted to be a better human being. Well, I'm much closer to that better human being now than I was then. And I'm 10 or 12 years down the track now, but I'm much more comfortable in my own skin. And I'm much more comfortable walking into that room going with the faith in my own ability to go, I'm just going to plan this out. I'm going to work through this workshop and they will get what they need out of it, knowing that something will pop up. And having that confidence makes an enormous difference. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, as you say, it comes back to me just being comfortable with who I am, knowing that, it might not be earth shattering today, but next week it might be.
And I often find that the value for our clients may happen outside of our meeting space. A meeting plants a seed. A meeting is a catalyst. The juicy transformation, whatever that needs to be for the client, may well happen a week later. It may happen outside of the time we are in front of each other. So, I just think we need to just get out of our way of thinking about, how are we helping versus how can we help, let the client decide the value and then believe that they truly got that value. It's a bit of a flip. It's not about what are we delivering. It's about how are we delivering in a way that the client can get maximum value.
Yeah, because what I see as value for them may not be what they see as value for them.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that let them work it out is gold.
Oh, I like being in the room with coaches. You guys are just the best. I'm just sitting here like soaking it all up. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I've probably taken more from this conversation than anybody. Oh, Arch, thank you. Thank you very much for this conversation, for what you do and how you help people, for sharing your journey of growth and having it one that I think so many people can relate to. So many people have either been in that situation where they haven't been their best selves, but wanted something more. And then they go through the journey of finding themselves. And as Vicki mentioned earlier, entrepreneurship is the greatest self-development journey in the world. You just can't help it. You have to. You have to go through these things. You have to feel these emotions of everything we talked about today. And hopefully we've helped some people on their journey as they're dealing with whatever stage they're dealing with. And we look forward to helping more and sharing more great stories like this.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Vicki. Yeah, been great fun.